The train screeched to a stop, its metal wheels hissing like a snake warning her away. Dust choked the air as she stepped onto the platform, her ivory gloves now smudged with grit. The scent of horses and sweat hit her like a wave. This wasn't Boston. This was the wild unknown. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Then silence. Evelyn clutched her parasol tighter. Her husband-to-be was late. Or maybe he wasn't coming at all. She was alone. Until she wasn't. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Behind her. She turned. There he stood. Tall. Broad. Sun-scarred. His hat low over eyes she couldn't read. Handsome, yes. But cold. Too cold. He didn't smile. Didn't offer a hand. Just one sentence. Flat and final. Let's go. And something in his voice told her. This wasn't the life she'd run to. It might be the one she'd never escape. But who was he, really? And what secret did this ranch hold that made even the birds stop singing? Before we jump in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches your heart, be sure to hit subscribe. Because tomorrow, I've saved something truly unforgettable just for you. Evelyn Whitmore had once walked marbled halls under crystal chandeliers. Silk danced around her ankles, and suitors lined up like chess pieces before her mother's sharp eyes. In Boston, she was the daughter of power, of legacy. But behind every corseted smile lay a truth she buried deep. She didn't belong there. She never had. Her heart, much like the scar hidden beneath her collarbone, had been stitched together in secret, fragile and bruised. It was a scar no one knew about, not even the man she was promised to before she fled. Now, dust clung to her skirts as she followed the silent man through dry grass and thorn brush toward a buckboard wagon. The heat was sharp and unrelenting. The sun wasn't gentle like it was back east. It burned with intention, like the land itself was trying to strip away who she once was. His name was Cole Maddox. A rancher, they said. Tall, commanding, and untamed like the hills he called home. He hadn't smiled once. Hadn't asked about her journey or offered her water. Just a nod. A low grunt. And that voice. The way he said, let's go. Not as a welcome, but as a warning. As the wagon creaked down a narrow trail cut between jagged cliffs and rattlesnake nests, Evelyn caught glimpses of a world far removed from hers. Crows circled overhead. Dust devils twisted like specters across the prairie. Every so often, she saw the charred remains of burned-out wagons and fence posts pierced with arrows, evidence of an uneasy peace with the Comanche to the north. They passed a settlement, if it could be called that. Just a cluster of weather-beaten buildings, a saloon with broken shutters, a general store, and a church that looked like it was leaning on faith alone. A few locals turned to look, some with curiosity, others with something darker. New bride, one of them whispered. Poor girl, another murmured. Evelyn's stomach turned. Cole said nothing, only tightened the reins and kept moving. Back at the ranch, the landscape stretched out like a forgotten god's graveyard. The Maddox homestead stood stark against the sky, stone, wood, and grit. It was not beautiful, but it was strong. Inside, she was introduced to two more faces. Lena, the housekeeper. Sharp eyes, silver hair, and a voice like cracked parchment. She offered Evelyn a drink, but said little else. And Jesse, Cole's younger brother. Maybe 17, maybe 20, it was hard to tell. Freckled, wiry, and suspicious. His handshake was limp, his gaze too long. They say you ran from some rich boy up east, he said without shame. Cole shot him a glance that could cut wood. Jesse only smirked. Evelyn forced a smile. She had learned to do that a long time ago. Smile through discomfort. Smile through dread. Smile until the walls stopped closing in. But something was wrong. That much she could feel. Cole had a locked drawer in his study. Lena never went into the west barn. Jesse never looked her in the eyes twice. And every night, when the wind howled against the windows, she swore she heard someone walking the grounds, long after the fires were out. And then there was the ledger she found, tucked between gardening journals, full of names, dates, and tally marks. Some names were crossed out. No one had mentioned the war, but Cole bore it in his silence, in the old bullet wound near his ribs she saw when he took off his shirt one morning. A wound that hadn't healed right. She asked him about it. He said nothing, but Evelyn was no fool. There were whispers of a Confederate hideout once buried deep in these hills, and rumors of Union gold that had vanished during the last year of the war. And maybe, just maybe, Cole Maddox wasn't the man he claimed to be. She had come here to escape a life of cages and arranged futures. But as the days dragged on, she began to realize something terrifying. She might have traded one kind of prison for another. And out there, beyond the ranch fences and fading horizon, something else stirred. A storm was coming. One made not of wind and rain, but of blood, secrets, and the ghosts of men who refused to stay buried. 3 weeks passed like a slow bleed. The sun scorched everything it touched. The silence between Evelyn and Cole grew heavier by the hour. Still, she tried. She fixed the curtains in the main room. She cooked, poorly, and offered to help with the horses. Cole barely acknowledged her. Until one night, everything changed. It was nearly midnight. Evelyn couldn't sleep. The ranch was too quiet, too still. She crept downstairs for water, passing Cole's study. A soft glow leaked from beneath the door. Then, voices. "We're not doing this again," Cole said, low and sharp. "We don't have a choice," Jesse hissed. "He's back. You know what he'll do." A pause. "If she finds out." "She won't." Evelyn froze. She stepped closer. The floorboard betrayed her. A groan under her slippered foot. The door swung open fast. Cole stood there, backlit by lamplight, his jaw tight, his eyes darker than she'd ever seen. "Go back to bed," he said. She wanted to ask questions, demand answers, but something in his face told her this wasn't the moment. She nodded, heart pounding, and slipped away. The next morning, Cole was gone. Jesse said nothing. Lena avoided her entirely. And by dusk, men came. 3 of them. Dust-covered riders with cruel grins and sharp eyes. Guns on their hips like extensions of their bodies. One of them, a man with a broken nose and a scar from ear to chin, tipped his hat at her like a gentleman. "Evenin', Mrs. Maddox," he said. "You've got the wrong ranch," Evelyn replied, lifting her chin. "Oh, I don't think we do." Jesse appeared, rifle in hand. "She don't know anything. Leave her out of it." Scarface chuckled. "Too late for that, boy." He turned to her. "We're old friends of your husband. He owes us a debt. A big one. We've come to collect." She didn't move. Didn't blink. "What debt?" she asked quietly. Scarface took a step forward. "Let's just say your husband used to ride with us. Before he decided he was better than blood. Before he took something that didn't belong to him." A heavy pause. "Gold. Confederate gold. The kind men kill for. And your pretty little life here? It's built on betrayal." Evelyn's mouth went dry. "Where is Cole?" Scarface grinned. "Gone. Probably trying to bury what's left of his sins before we dig him up." Another man grabbed her wrist. She struggled, but he twisted her arm behind her back and yanked her toward the wagon. Jesse shouted, raising the rifle. But Scarface drew first, faster than she could blink, and shot the weapon clean from his hands. "You've got 2 choices, girl," Scarface whispered. "You help us find what Cole took, or we burn this place to the ground with you in it." The wagon's door slammed shut behind her. Darkness swallowed her. The scent of sweat, old wood, and horses overwhelmed her senses. Outside, the wheels began to turn. They weren't taking her to town. They were taking her somewhere far more dangerous. Somewhere she might not come back from. And as the wagon bounced over the harsh terrain, Evelyn clutched the only thing in her pocket, a small, gold locket she never opened. Inside was a name she hadn't dared to say in years, a name she had run from, even as it whispered from her nightmares. But now, she might need to remember it. Because to survive whatever came next, she'd have to become the woman she swore she'd never be again. The woman who once escaped a locked room in Boston. The woman with the scar on her collarbone and blood on her hands. And as the moon rose over the jagged cliffs, one thought echoed louder than her fear. What if Cole didn't betray them? What if he betrayed her? The wagon groaned as it climbed into the cliffs, wheels kicking dust into the violet dusk. Evelyn sat on the floor, wrists bound, her back aching from the jostling. Every mile they rode took her further from the ranch and deeper into something darker than she'd ever imagined. Scarface, whose name, she learned, was Boone, rode beside the wagon with two others, Red, a wiry man with twitchy hands and dead eyes, and Harland, silent, slow-moving, built like a bear. They didn't speak to her much. When they did, it was with mocking politeness, like men who knew how to make fear feel almost gentlemanly. But the threat was always there, in Boone's grin, in Red's restless fingers twitching toward his pistol, in Harlan's long, unblinking stares. They camped by a dead river that first night. Boone cut her binds, tossed her a bedroll, and warned her, "You run, we shoot. You scream, we gag. But if you cooperate, well, maybe we'll leave your little ranch standing." Evelyn didn't sleep. Her mind raced. What gold? What betrayal? Who had Cole really been before he became a rancher in New Mexico? And what did any of it have to do with her? The next morning, the journey shifted. Boone handed her a map. Not paper, canvas, old and cracked. Symbols burned into the edges. "You're smarter than you look," he said. Cole said he burned it. "But you're wearing the key around your neck." He pointed to her locket. Inside, the name etched in faded ink, MWS. The initials of a man she'd long buried in her past. Malcolm Warren Sinclair. A fiancé she'd left at the altar. A man who'd once whispered to her about stolen Confederate treasure. A man with a blood-stained ledger and a smile she'd stopped trusting the moment she saw what he kept hidden in his basement. She thought he was dead. She hoped he was. 3 days passed. Each campfire brought more questions than answers. Boone spoke in half-truths. He'd once ridden with Cole. They ran jobs. Some legal, most not. But everything changed when Cole vanished with a satchel of Confederate bullion after a botched deal in Galveston. "Feds say it was never real," Boone said one night, eyes gleaming. "But I've seen a bar of it with my own eyes. Black stamped with a serpent. Southern Mint. And I'll be damned if I let your husband die sitting on that kind of gold." Evelyn scoffed. "You think I know where it is?" Boone grinned. "You don't need to. You will." That night, she tried to escape. She waited until Red wandered off to relieve himself. Harlan snored beneath a tree. Boone was sharpening his knife by the fire. Evelyn crept into the shadows, heart racing, boots barely touching earth. She didn't make it 30 paces. Boone grabbed her by the waist and slammed her to the ground. She kicked, bit, scratched. He didn't hit her, but his grip tightened like iron. Then something strange. He let go, stood back, looked at her differently. "You got fire," he muttered. "No wonder Cole picked you. You bite like someone who's seen the inside of a jail cell." She said nothing, just breathed hard. Dust in her teeth, blood in her mouth. Boone's tone dropped. "You run again, I won't be so polite. Understand?" Evelyn nodded. But deep down, something had shifted. This wasn't just about gold. Boone knew more than he said. And he wasn't just hunting Cole. By the 5th day, they reached an old mission town swallowed by sand and silence. Dust Ridge, the map called it. Only a few shacks remained. A chapel with broken stained glass. A graveyard overtaken by thorns. And a man. He stood beneath the chapel's bell tower, dressed in black, watching them arrive. When Evelyn stepped from the wagon, the man tipped his hat. "You've grown up, Miss Warren." Her blood froze. It was Malcolm. Alive. Older now. A white streak in his dark hair. Eyes like a blade under moonlight. "Still carrying that locket, I see," he smiled. "I knew you'd come back to me someday." Boone bowed mockingly. "Told you she'd remember." Evelyn's legs nearly gave out. So this was the game. Cole didn't just betray his outlaw brothers. He'd betrayed a man Evelyn once loved and abandoned. A man who never forgot. The next 48 hours blurred into danger and deception. Malcolm offered Evelyn tea, fresh clothes, promised her answers if she gave him one thing, her help decoding the map and finding the final location of the gold. He said Cole lied to her, said he never changed, that the ranch was a mask, a way to disappear until the heat died down. But Evelyn didn't trust Malcolm. She saw the same manipulator beneath his elegant words. And Boone, he was too eager to hand her over. Something wasn't right. Then came the moment of clarity. That night, while fetching water from the chapel's well, she overheard Malcolm and Boone. "She doesn't need to survive the dig," Malcolm said. "Just give me the location. After that, we tie loose ends." Boone hesitated. I said I'd bring her to you. I didn't agree to murder. You're not paid to agree, Malcolm replied coldly. Evelyn didn't breathe. She backed away, heart hammering. They planned to use her. Then kill her. Just like that. She had no allies. No gun. No escape. Unless. She went to Harland. The quiet one. The brute. She sat beside him by the fire and offered him a simple truth. You were a miner once. I saw the marks on your hands. You dig graves like you dug coal. You know what gold does to men. Harland didn't look at her, but his jaw tightened. Malcolm will kill you too. After I'm gone. You know it. Still no response. She leaned in, whispered, help me, and I'll split the gold with you. I'll tell you where it is. He looked at her then, a long, thoughtful gaze, and nodded just once. It was the first thread of hope she'd felt in days. That night, she stole a pistol from Red's bag, buried it beneath her bedroll. Tomorrow, they would reach the canyon marked with a serpent. Tomorrow, they would dig, and blood would follow gold. But tonight, Evelyn lay awake, staring at the stars, wondering, would Cole come for her? Or had he already made his choice? And if she made it out alive, would she ever trust love again? The desert wind screamed through the canyon like a warning cry. Evelyn stood at the edge, peering down at the stone serpent carved into the red rock, just like the map had shown. Boone, Red, and Harlan stood behind her, waiting, watching. And Malcolm? He held the map like a holy relic, pacing like a preacher who had just found proof of the divine. You remember this place? He asked. You and I once talked about building a life here. Before Cole. Before you ran. Evelyn ignored him. She was done playing the fragile bride. They began digging at sunrise. By mid-morning, sweat ran down their backs, and the canyon echoed with the scrape of metal against stone. Then Harlan's shovel hit something solid. A metal box, buried deep, heavy, covered in a thick layer of red clay and oilskin. Malcolm fell to his knees, brushing it clean with shaking hands. Boone leaned in. Red cocked his pistol, habitually or not, Evelyn couldn't tell. The moment the lid opened, everyone leaned forward. Inside, not gold. Documents. Letters. A U.S. Marshal badge. A black ledger. Malcolm went pale. Boone swore. Evelyn stared, numb. And then, the realization hit her like a bullet. Cole wasn't a criminal. He was an undercover lawman. He had infiltrated Malcolm's outlaw circle to bring it down from the inside. The ranch, the isolation, it was his way of protecting Evelyn from retaliation. She staggered back, her chest heaving. You told me he betrayed you, she whispered. Malcolm's expression twisted. He did. He betrayed me to the damn government. Boone looked between them. He was a marshal? Red raised his gun toward Evelyn. Then she's a problem. The desert silence was pierced by a single word. No. It came from Harland. He stepped forward, blocking Evelyn. Gun drawn. She's not dying for this. Not after what we found. The standoff cracked like thunder. Boone cursed. Malcolm yelled. Red fired, missed. Harlan shot first. Red dropped instantly. Malcolm dove for cover, dragging the documents into a satchel. Evelyn grabbed the pistol she'd hidden in her boot and ran. Dust choking her lungs, gunfire echoing off the canyon walls. Boone ducked behind a rock, shouting after her. Evelyn, you think you knew him? You think he was protecting you? She turned, gun raised. Shut up. Boone stepped out slowly, no weapon. Just words. He was going to leave you. He told us. Said once this job was done, he'd disappear. Alone. You were just the pretty cover story. A way to look clean. The world tilted. Evelyn's breath caught. No, she said. You're lying. Boone shook his head. Check the ledger. Page 43. His last written report. Behind them, Malcolm vanished into the canyon with the documents. Harlan chased him, cursing. Gunfire followed. Evelyn stood alone in the sun, torn between two truths. Cole loved her. She felt it. But Cole was also a marshal. A man who lived behind masks. She opened the ledger. Hands trembling. Flipped to page 43. Her name. Her description. His words. She believes I love her. And I want to. God help me, I do. But when this is done, I have to disappear. She can't know who I really am. Not if I want her to live. Evelyn collapsed to her knees. Her love had been real, but it had also been part of an assignment. A lie, dressed in tender moments and soft promises. The canyon went quiet. Boone approached slowly, eyes softer now. He left that here for a reason, Evelyn. Maybe to protect you. Or maybe because he knew it'd destroy you if you ever read it. She didn't answer. She just stood up, gritted her teeth, and said, "Then I'll decide what to do with it." From the distance, a scream. Harlan's. Evelyn and Boone turned at the same time. Smoke curled over the ridge. Gunshots again. And then, Malcolm's voice, carried on the wind. "You should have stayed in high society, darling. This desert belongs to me now." The desert had no mercy left. 3 days since the canyon. 3 days since the lies split Evelyn's world in half. Now, the sun beat down like a punishment, and every breath felt like swallowing fire. She and Boone moved quickly, always a step behind Malcolm, who had vanished into the wilderness with the black ledger and the truth it held. They had only one lead, Harlan's blood trail. They found him on the second night, slumped under a dead mesquite tree, breathing in gasps, one hand pressed to a wound in his side. "Malcolm," he rasped, blood on his teeth, "took the ledgers to the Apache Trail. He's going to trade them for safe passage, land, money, silence." Boone knelt beside him, voice raw. "Why didn't you run?" Harlan shook his head. Thought, maybe Evelyn was worth more than gold. He reached for her hand. "You don't have to run anymore, miss. You make the storm now." Then he stilled. Evelyn stared down at him, eyes hollow, hands trembling. Harlan, rough, loyal, unreadable Harlan, had died to protect her. She didn't cry. She couldn't. Boone stood silently, jaw clenched. "We bury him here. Then we finish this." They rode hard at dawn. The Apache Trail was no trail at all. Just heat waves on sand, rattlesnakes under stone, and the constant risk of outlaws watching from the cliffs. By midday, Boone's horse buckled. They traveled on foot. "You sure you still want this?" he asked her once, voice low. "You still think Cole was a good man?" Evelyn didn't answer. She wasn't chasing a man anymore. She was chasing the truth. And if that meant burning every lie between here and the edge of the world, so be it. They found Malcolm's camp by accident. A fire burned low. Horses were tied loosely to a post. And there, beyond the embers, Evelyn saw Cole's rifle leaning against a rock. Boone narrowed his eyes. "That's his gear." "Then maybe he's alive," Evelyn whispered. She moved forward, silent, crouched. Boone at her back. A snap of twigs. They froze. "Too late. Thought you'd come." Malcolm's voice boomed from behind. He stepped out, gun raised, ledger in hand. "She's stubborn, Boone." "Told you." Evelyn turned slowly. "Is Cole alive?" Malcolm smiled. "For now. Traded him to the Apache as leverage. They'll keep him alive until the deal's done." He tapped the ledger. "And this? This is the price for peace. Land, silence, and my future." Boone stepped forward. "You'd sell out everyone? Burn the whole country down just to save your neck?" "I'm not saving myself," Malcolm growled. "I'm building a kingdom. You all just didn't have the stomach for it." Then, suddenly, he dropped the ledger into the fire. Flames leapt up. Evelyn screamed. Boone lunged, but too late. The truth was burning. Malcolm turned to Evelyn, pistol aimed. "You loved a ghost, girl. A man who never existed. And now you'll die for his sins." But Evelyn had learned. She didn't flinch. She raised her own pistol, pointed not at Malcolm but the whiskey bottle beside him. One shot. Glass exploded. Flames jumped. The fire caught the dry grass and exploded toward Malcolm's tent. Chaos. Boone tackled him. Guns clashed. Fists flew. Evelyn dove into the tent, searching, gasping, choking. And then, Cole, tied to a post. Beaten, barely conscious. She cut his binds. "Evelyn," he croaked. "I told you not to come." She grabbed his face. "Shut up and walk." They stumbled out together as the camp exploded in smoke and ash. Behind them, Boone had Malcolm pinned. But Malcolm, bloodied, grinned. "This isn't over." Boone didn't hesitate. One shot. Malcolm fell still. They didn't speak as they moved, not at first. Cole could barely walk. Evelyn supported him. Boone walked behind, silent. Finally, at a small stream, they stopped. Cole leaned against a boulder, coughing blood. "You burned the ledger?" Evelyn asked softly. He nodded. Didn't want the world knowing everything I did. Some things need to stay buried. She stared at him. All of it, the marriage, was I just a cover? Cole looked up, and for the first time, he didn't pretend. At first, yes. I was sent to watch Malcolm. You were part of the story. But then, you became the reason I couldn't leave. She looked away. The wind rustled the grass. I read your final entry, she said. You were going to disappear. He nodded. I still might have to. Then Boone spoke. You won't make it far with that wound. And we don't even know who's after us now. The Apache deal's broken. Malcolm's allies will want blood. A moment of silence. Cole looked to Evelyn. You should leave me here. I'm dead weight. But she didn't move. She walked to him, took his hand. I'm done being someone's pawn. If you're going to run, I'll be the one deciding where. Boone nodded. Then we ride. That night, under a sky full of burning stars, Evelyn stood watch while Boone and Cole rested. The war wasn't over. She'd lost the truth in the fire, lost friends to greed, and lost the safety of the life she once ran from. But something else had awakened in her. Not revenge, not even justice. Something fiercer. Purpose. And ahead, a final confrontation waited. Because even with Malcolm dead, others were coming. And Evelyn Carter was ready. The storm hit just before dawn. Thunder rolled low across the plains like drums of war. Lightning split the horizon, brief flashes illuminating jagged rocks and the twisted shadows of the old mining town where it would all end. Evelyn stood at the edge of what once was a church. Now, its bones were hollowed, pews broken, glass shattered. Behind her, Boone loaded the last of their guns. And inside, resting against a post, half conscious but alive, was Cole. They'll come at first light, Boone said, wiping sweat from his brow. 3 riders already spotted. That's just the start. Evelyn didn't flinch. Let them. They arrived like ghosts out of the dust. First 6, then more. Gunmen in black. Faces hidden, boots soaked with blood. These weren't just Malcolm's leftovers. These were the ones who'd fed his ambition, the men in suits and spurs who'd bankrolled betrayal across half the territories. And leading them, a woman, tall, regal, hair braided in silver thread. Boone hissed, "That's Judge Myra Blackwell. She funded Malcolm's rebellion from the east." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "She's not here for justice. She's here to clean the blood trail." Blackwell dismounted slowly. Her voice, when it came, was cold enough to still the wind. "You must be Evelyn Carter, the thorn in our side, the girl who should have died in a dress, not holding a gun." Evelyn stepped forward. "I buried Malcolm. Now I'll bury your lies." Blackwell smiled thinly. "I'm not here to argue. I'm here to erase." Then, gunfire. The air exploded. Boone fired from behind a stone wall. Evelyn rolled behind a crumbling pulpit. Bullets shredded the air. Inside the church, Cole shouted, but he was too weak to stand. This wasn't a shootout. It was a siege. 10 minutes. 20. Bodies hit the ground, dust painted red. Boone took a round to the shoulder, but kept fighting. Evelyn reloaded until her fingers bled. Then, a scream. Boone collapsed behind the altar, face pale, blood pouring from his side. "No." Evelyn crawled to him, dragging him behind the shattered podium. His breath came shallow. "Go," he coughed. "End it." But Evelyn didn't run. She stood, gun in hand, eyes blazing. Blackwell stood across the courtyard, untouched, calm. Her men were dead or dying. But she hadn't moved. "You think this ends with me?" Blackwell asked. "No," Evelyn said softly. "It ends with truth." She tossed something into the dirt between them. A second ledger. Blackwell's eyes narrowed. "You made a copy," she said flatly. Evelyn nodded. "Harlan helped me. Before he died." The older woman's mask cracked, for just a moment. "This ledger names every man and woman who paid Malcolm to stir war. It's got judges, bankers, even your name." Blackwell stepped forward, gun drawn. "That book won't leave this valley." But she wasn't aiming at Evelyn. She was aiming at Cole. Evelyn fired first. The shot echoed through the valley like a thunderclap. Blackwell stumbled. Blood bloomed across her chest. Then she fell, silent. Evelyn dropped her gun. The air was still. No wind. No birds. Just dust and silence. She walked back into the church. Boone groaned. barely conscious. Cole tried to sit up. She knelt between them. "It's over," she said, barely a whisper. But it wasn't. Boone's eyes fluttered. No one rider left. The crack of a rifle echoed. A sniper. Evelyn turned just in time. The shot came. Cole pushed her down. It hit him. He gasped once, then fell back, blood pouring from his chest. "No!" Evelyn screamed, catching him. His eyes met hers. "I told you. I'd always protect you." She shook her head, sobbing. Don't leave." He smiled. "I never did." And then, he was gone. She sat there, holding him, as the dawn finally broke. Light crept over the valley. Boone stirred. The last gunman fled. No more enemies. No more shadows. But Evelyn Carter had no tears left. They buried Cole beside the chapel. Boone carved a crude marker from stone. No name. Just a line from Evelyn. For the man who chose truth over silence. She rode out that afternoon, ledger hidden in her saddlebag, eyes sharp. The war wasn't over. But she had what she needed to burn the rest of the empire down. And maybe, just maybe, start something new. The valley was quiet now. Days had passed since the bloodshed at Hollow Chapel. The bodies were buried. The smoke had cleared, but the silence that remained, it was heavy. Like the land itself was grieving. Evelyn Carter stood on the ridge, wind teasing her hair, eyes fixed on the horizon. Below her, Boone limped across the field, tending to the wounded horses and salvaging what they could. His arm was in a sling, and his spirit, though battered, hadn't been broken. "You sure you want to ride out alone?" he called up. She nodded. "There's no one left to chase me." He didn't argue, just lifted a hand in farewell. She didn't take the main roads. Instead, Evelyn rode through ghost trails, paths worn by outlaws, whispered in saloon stories. She passed wrecked towns, charred cabins, a forgotten land carved by greed and washed in blood. But she wasn't running anymore. She was delivering something. The ledger, wrapped in oiled cloth, tucked under her saddle, bound in truth. Names, bribes, accounts. It wasn't just evidence. It was power. In the right hands, it could topple half the West's ruling class. In the wrong ones, it would vanish, just like coal. She stopped at a quiet town 2 states east. One sheriff, one bank, and one tired editor who still ran a printing press with ink-stained fingers and dreams of justice. "This real?" he asked, eyes wide as he flipped through the ledger's pages. She nodded. "Every name, every dollar, every betrayal." He looked up, hesitant. "Publishing this, it'll cause war." Evelyn's voice didn't shake. It already did. The article hit front pages a week later. Empire of Dust, the names behind the blood. People whispered it was written by a ghost, that a dead man had collected the names, and a woman who'd vanished delivered them. Senators resigned. Judges were dragged into the street. And Myra Blackwell's name, it turned to ash in every courtroom. But Evelyn Carter? She disappeared again. Some said she headed south. Others said east, toward the sea. Only Boone claimed to have heard from her, just once. A letter, written in faded ink. "You were the brother I never had. Keep building something better. I'll be watching the wind." Years later, travelers spoke of a lone rider who visited orphan towns and border camps, teaching the lawless about freedom and the wounded how to fight. They said she wore a silver chain around her neck, with a small brass ring at the end. The kind you'd find on a man's finger. The kind you'd only keep if you'd lost him forever. But the West doesn't remember Evelyn Carter the way books remember queens or outlaws. It remembers her as a whisper. The woman who came on a train with lace gloves and ended with a revolver in her hand and fire in her chest. The bride who fled high society to find love in the dirt, only to bury it beside a broken church. And yet, not everything ended that day. In the burned ruins of the chapel, buried beneath a loose stone near the altar, something remains. A small tin box. Inside it, a faded photo of 2 people in the early morning light. One is smiling, the other is not. Tucked beneath that photo is a note, written in Cole's hand. It reads, "If you're reading this, we didn't win. But if she lived, then maybe, just maybe, we didn't lose." The end. Or maybe, just the beginning of something else.